All right, this is the Reach by Monday podcast. My name is Dorrance Creighton Jr. This is my partner, player partner, Jared M. Wilkins. And Reach by Monday podcast is about, what is it about? We're going to talk about finance. I don't know. What is it about?
I mean, for me, it was just about like, I'm gonna have to take you back to actually where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
It came from me being at work, on at the job, which at another episode later on in time we'll probably get into like our personal journey.
Yeah, origin story.
But it came from just being on the job and knowing that my place was beyond where I beyond that. So, being a serial entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur at the time, it just came down to like, what can I do on the weekends or on my off time to make sure that I get rich by Monday so I can quit.
Right.
That's what. Right. That's how it started. Like it literally started like I have to, because when you're on a job, you don't have no free time really, especially the way I was working, because I was spending like the majority of my time commuting to and
right.
You know what I mean? So it was like what can I do in like the extra 2-3 hours a day? What can I learn? And then on the weekends, instead of going crazy or whatever, what can I do by Sunday night that could be like, all right, cool, I can quit.
Right. Right. Which makes sense because we're going to be taping these or recording these on Friday, having the weekend to kind of put them together and then put them out on Monday. So it's like it's going to be the same thing. Like how can I get rich by Monday on based on what I do over the weekend?
Yeah. So I mean that's how it started for me. That's how it started. And then as things progress, time goes on, I realized by spending that amount of time, like that extra time focusing on other things, it actually changed like my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I was at the job and I was there doing things that I didn't necessarily want to do, it still put me in a different mindset while I was there. And so even though I didn't have freedom, I didn't have, all the supposed benefits of being an entrepreneur, working for yourself, the fact that I was thinking differently completely changed my experience on the job. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't so much about, like at a certain point, it wasn't even about money anymore. It was just about, it was about understanding how to leverage your time.
Okay, so now we're expanding on what Rich by Monday means. Yeah, I like that.
So it became more about just shifting the way you think. And if you're in a position doing something you may not like or you think you don't like because you have to rely too heavily on it for your income or your lifestyle, then what if you could just shift that, by educating yourself and learning more to where you didn't?
Mm-hmm.
You just thought differently as a person. Same place, same position. Your thought process just became, you just got a little more clarity.
Right.
And I feel like that makes things like much more tolerable because you finally find the path you're on.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people are lost, right? They just they're going over here for a little bit and they go over here for a little bit. And, and that's something that we've all done. So, and still do at times. I mean, everything's digital, so you can do it on your phone. You could be looking at something 1 minute and then the next minute you're on a rabbit hole on YouTube,
Yeah.
soccer tricks or something.
Yeah. Get these soccer tricks off real quick.
So
That's exactly how it is. You have to figure out how to sift through all the things that want your attention and get down to those core things. So I was going to ask, being that you were working at that time, um, and having a limited amount of time, do you think that was better in terms of I have 2 hours to learn X, Y, and Z because I'm off at this time, I got to be asleep and then get back up and go to work again. So do you think it's a benefit of having, quote unquote, less time to be entrepreneurial?
yes and no, because also my situation was different at the time. Like I didn't have nobody depending on me. Like I only had to depend on myself and take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I got home at say like 8 o'clock, 7 or 8 o'clock, and then I'm up, reading, learning, studying, practicing until 1, 2 in the morning. That doesn't bother anyone if I don't perform well the next day.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt anyone, I should say, other than myself. But I didn't care because so
Right.
it's different when you have like a family counting on you and other things. You can't mess up that rhythm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's totally different. So so I said yes and no because when I was younger and at that point, because that was over 10 years or around 10 years ago, or if not close to 10 years ago. Um, so which is crazy. Uh,
Yeah. Time. Hmm.
7 years ago. So it was different. You know what I mean? It was just I was in a different position. But with a family and having kids and all that, I would say you definitely have to remain disciplined and maximize like that short window of time before
Yeah.
baby starts crying or you got to do something for the baby or you got to do something for your significant other or whatever.
Yeah.
Where it's no longer about you. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah. That's the struggle. Especially I remember just like before the pandemic, it was like you can just be locked in at the office and like, I'm there for X amount of hours. Kid at school, um, wife at work, and you can just be locked in. Now I find it difficult just being into like a locked in state of mind, back to like locked in on the work and
100.
knocked it out. So now it's more like you have like an hour, 2 hours, and maybe you can't finish right away. You got to put it down and then come back to it later.
Mhm.
That's the crazy thing for me, because as you know, if you once you like you locked in on something, they call it what they call it, like being in the zone or in your flow. It's hard to get back into the flow.
Mhm.
It's just like when you get like an alert on your phone, you in your flow and you're doing something, you get alert on your phone, and now you're looking at it. Now you're reading at it, or you're looking up soccer tricks again. So it's just like you got to figure out like how to lock out that time, whatever that time is, an hour, hour or two, and with no distractions. So for me now, it's like you got an hour, hour or two, and then you got to get back to something else. You got to relieve wifey and get to the baby, or maybe you got to make lunch, or maybe you got we got schoolwork we got for the kid. So it's it's a delicate balance now. Like I was telling you earlier, like I feel good that I have like certain things that I have to do that have to get done that I'm putting on my schedule now,
Mhm.
instead of just being just so like focused on getting immediate things that need to be done like immediately. So say I got to get like a contract written up. I'm like, okay, boom, I'm doing that, and then that goes out, and then I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? It's like your whole day is you responding to whatever is coming to you.
Yeah.
Before it was the reverse. It was like I knew exactly what I was going to do that day, and I would sit down and go do it. So is it better? Do you think in the long term it'll be better to because there is some benefit to having your kids and your family around you where you're not at the office 10 hours a day or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So in the long term, do you think it's going to be beneficial to your business and or your lifestyle to do the things we're doing now, where it's kind of like fragmented days, but maybe a better lifestyle for like kids and family?
I mean, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know because uh, if it's not your ideal workflow, like what good is it really doing if you're not in your lane in,
Right.
in terms of productivity? See, like I'm similar to you. Like I enjoy like getting up, leaving, going somewhere, like going to my office, like the whole process, opening the door, like unlocking the door, the key, all that.
Yeah.
Turning my radio on so I can hear music in my office, close
Right. Right.
my door, and do what I got to do.
Hmm.
Which is why, like when I'm home, I'll always be up. I end up being up really late because that's when everybody's asleep.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
up like doing random, whatever I want to do at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll do it 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. That's a trip. Man, brain, brain working like right after like about 6:30, I start slowing down. Like for sure, like 7, 8, like my brain's not working the way it was working like during the morning, during the day.
I'm sharp. 2 a.m. I'm sharp, bro.
I'm much better in the morning, much better in the morning. Um, anyway, we kind of went off topic on that, on topic, off topic. We were supposed to talk about why it took us so long to actually do a podcast and what what barriers we were trying to get over personally. Um, about putting yourself out there and doing a podcast. So
Well,
um,
you go ahead and fill us in. Like, what were your apprehensions?
um, if I can just, I think the most, um, I think the biggest thing was like, what's the benefit? Like, what maybe I just use my time I was going to do a podcast or produce a podcast with editing and getting ready and et cetera, et cetera. It takes time. So what's the benefit of putting that time in where you can put those, I'll just make up an hour, like 5 hours into actually doing the business that you do,
Mm-hmm.
the work. So whatever that work is, what's the benefit of taking, let's say, that 5 hours away from my actual work that generates income
Mm-hmm.
and doing it and put into something that quote unquote doesn't generate income, right? So I think that was from like an economic standpoint, right? Um, so that was one, and then another one was um, I think I just didn't want to do it. I want to be out there as a thought leader, quote unquote thought leader on certain topics. But you see so much of the bull going, and it's allowed to grow because no one's in that position to be like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
you know? um, I'm not going to tell you, um, a little bit how things work, so I can get paid for that knowledge. So then I think, it's been like 15 years in the business of finance and real estate. I feel like maybe I should, share the knowledge I have with that might benefit someone. So it took a while just to be like, okay, well, let's just let's just do it. And then I don't know. I think of it like having like just a record of how we thought 10 years ago. 10 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
once we're in our 40s, it's like, dang, I thought that way. Cause I know for sure. I think 10 years ago, like, man, that dude was dumb. And so I kind of want that. I want that. I don't know. I want that archive, I guess, to look back on too.
I'm glad I don't have anything any type of vocal recordings from 10 years.
Well, technically you do.
Well, out in the out in the internets, in the streets.
That's another thing. It's like speak to the internet part of it, right? It's different now. It's like everything you say, it's like it's time stamped, and then that's how you feel. Because you said it, you said it a week ago, so that's how you feel this week. So the whole what they call now cancel culture, but I kind of like I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to be part of the internet bullshit. So that's been part of it too. So
I mean, for me, man, it was a lot of that. Like it was definitely a lot of. I was with you on that. Like just why? Um, Especially when it came to like other things that like kind of are parallel to like this space, like podcasting and all these other things. Being available, like it was just like why? Like what is the? I have no desire to be known. I have no desire to be famous. Like to be seen as an expert. None of that. It was like, so why? Because what's the motivation for other people?
right,
Who want to be known as the person to go to, for that, and that's how they make a living. And it was like I can't make a living off just being known.
yeah,
I don't think I'm that interested.
right,
So,
yeah,
so it was a lot of that, and it was also like knowing that once you take that leap and begin to do it, you now become one of them. You now become one of the people who, um, who made specifically when it comes to like education and information. Like you become one of those guys who, yes, I made more money selling you the information or selling you whatever this is versus actually doing it. And when you know the people who are actually doing it, it's hard to think of yourself as becoming one of the guys who are selling you.
right,
You know,
right,
when you're really doing business and you're really meeting real business people and you see everybody out here hustling, that's fine. But it's hard to kind of separate yourself and become one of them.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like,
It's
man,
kind of
do that.
it's kind of like being in sales. Like you're a salesperson, you're out here, you in the dirt with it, and you're drumming up business and et cetera, et cetera. And then you got the guy that was right next to you, shoulder to shoulder, and now it's he's in management.
Yeah.
It's like now you manage people. I like that. It's like it's like you're not in the game anymore. It's like if I lead a game, would the people still love me? On the pitch, I'm paying for. It's like love the game. I like playing the game. I don't want to, be the guy who tells you how to play the game. It's like being a coach, right? Like saying like being a ball player, liking it to being a ball player and being a coach.
I mean, but even then, like a coach can be of the practice. It doesn't necessarily have to be a participant. They can still be of the practice. Like you were part of the overall
Right.
in some regard. Like when because that's what I do. Anytime something happens, I always look out in the field to see what the competition is, and just to see what the market is like. So when you're looking out in the field, and it's like, well, these guys aren't actually of the industry that you know that they're pitching you.
Right.
If they were, we would know them. There's only a handful of people who are successful at certain levels in these industries. Um, so it's like, and everybody knows them. But you don't see these guys doing it. So if they're not doing it, why would I do it?
Right.
You know what I mean? And a coach in that aspect could be someone who is like their assistant, or you know what I'm saying, or just someone who was close to or close in proximity, even if they weren't active, they weren't an
Right.
active participant. Then they could come and say, "Nah, that's not how it works. This is how you do it."
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And so, but that's rare because even doing that, you'd be making way more money,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Or just it's just hard to once you figure out what really works, like how it really works, it's hard to just go over to the other side and be like, I'm going to ignore all of that and just be like, and just talk to you guys about this.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that something you still struggling with, or have you overcome some of those hurdles?
Every day, I struggle with
And
it.
which way, you know? Because
Every,
now it's like, okay, technically we have a podcast for podcast hosts. We press play, so now it's like, is it going to be a continuous struggle, or do you put in your head that, okay, this is, I don't know, 10% of my business, or chalk it up as um, marketing, or marketing for your business, or um, I'm trying to embrace it as an archive to look into later.
um,
What is it? What do you put on it to make you show up every week?
I just know I have to do it. I mean, there's enough people who demand it, especially those who are close to us. Like they've been asking us to do anything for for years, and it's just I just feel like I feel like in many ways it's selfish to be like nah, because I don't want to be whack. But then you see the people they end up gravitating towards, and it's like y'all shouldn't be over there. You know?
Right.
But then it's like, well, there's no options. There are no other options. So it's like it's like I'm not gonna say that because that's gonna sound crazy. But just imagine just imagine like a pro, like a pro sports player of any league. Doesn't even have to be like an extremely great one, just somebody who's playing professional sport, right?
Keep going. Turn my light on quick. Feel like I'm in a cave. Feel like I was really coming out the cave. Like, yeah, we gonna do this now. We was quiet before, but now we coming out.
So, so yeah, just think about someone who plays pro sports on any level. They're just good enough to play. They can have a long career playing, and then they just give it up to go coach little league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, those kids need people to pour into them too. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to call like I'm not trying to call these adults kids because definitely not. They're not. But I'm just using that as an example. Like when you're
Right. Yeah.
a participant in the business world, and then to have to make the transition to like the digital space, that's
Mm-hmm.
probably, in my opinion, that's been or that is the most difficult part. Is going into being known as a guy who's pitching information versus the guy who's acting on the said information.
Right. I mean, is it possible to be both those people?
Yeah, of course, but it just I don't know. Maybe it might change later down the line. I don't know, but it's just what I'm saying. Again, when you know people, I think what it is I was listening to Alex Jones on
Mm-hmm.
Flagrant 2 podcast, and Alex Jones they were talking about everybody thinks he's crazy, right? And he probably, but um, they were talking about leaders in the country and what does it take to be a leader, and he's like, why? Andrew Schultz asked him like, why do you think there aren't any good people who are leaders? And that's because
Mm-hmm.
um, that's because we're not sociopaths,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you ask a good person, like, what should we do? They'll be like, well, there's other people who are smarter than me. There's other people who have the answers. We need to go
Right.
for them, right? We need to
Yeah.
listen to them. We need to listen to them. Blah blah blah. When you ask a sociopath, they'll run out in traffic. They'll say, "Follow me."
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are the people that often, you know, draw that type of attention. So you look at someone like Trump, again, our president, same thing. Someone who would just run off in traffic if he could. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm going this way.
Mm-hmm.
We'll follow him into traffic. And,
So, so you're saying you have to have a certain amount of narcissism
yeah,
to be the person to be say this. Yeah, follow me. I'm the guy.
to take someone else's life in your hands and say it's better off with me, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause I mean that's yet to be known until you actually live that life all the way out.
Hmm.
Um,
So that's been for me. That's been like my biggest. And I've thought about like once you get to a certain maybe once you get to a certain point where you're making a certain amount of money, will it matter? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm not really money motivated. So
mhm.
it's like, um,
Yeah, it's I think that speaks to like we say narcissism, but it's also a certain amount of ego you need
mhm.
to, and I think the ego that I possessed in my 20s is just not here in my 30s. It's just not there,
Yeah.
you know, and is very difficult to draw from. To be like, I don't know. I don't know if it's because well, I know for sure it's important to take losses to be able to really successfully consult somebody. I think somebody has to be able to take some losses. So I have taken my losses. So I don't think I'm, beat up or jaded. It could be a little jaded um, because we've had a past of quote unquote leading people, and I think it's just hard to get back into that mindset and whatever it was at my 1920s, whatever that was, rather it's ego or narcissism or whatever it was like a powerful ignorance on fire that got shit done, but I don't think to the level I could do them now. But that fire or ignorance or whatever it was is not there to propel like it did in the past.
Hmm.
So um, sometimes I sit and I do miss whatever that was that I know for sure is just not there now, or it might be there in a different way. So I don't
Yep.
know. I'm trying to figure out. Um, I don't know what it means to be now the person that's been 15 years who has this bulk of knowledge. Um, is there some type of social responsibilities, especially with from where we come from? Just based on our backgrounds to you know distribute that information back to the people we're from, our community.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean, but that's why we have kids. You raise kids to with those lessons, that
mhm.
collection of lessons. Like I don't. I do agree that there is some type of social responsibility, but it's like at the end of the day, this like it's a business. There is a business attached to all of these things. So the
Right.
real obstacle is, do I want to be in that business?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I don't know if I want to be in.
this is this is part of it. Once when you're young, you're 19, 20, you don't think about all this stuff in depth. You just do it. You be like, all right, we're doing that tomorrow. Let's do it. And then you run off for 8 months and things got done. And I think we just overthink things way too much.
Nah, definitely, it's all PTSD. All of all of it is some form of PTSD. Like it just completely.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we both like kind of see this. This is going to be an interesting experiment of like we like begrudgingly doing this, but doing it anyway. I feel gonna be like, yo, if you don't want to do it, just don't do it.
Man, we gonna have no fans, bro. They'll be like, all they talk about is how much they don't want to do it.
Well, this is the first episode. I know it'll probably come up as we go, but I think that's part of being human. I mean, like being really honest, not just setting up and put on a mask and saying, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this for all the wrong reasons, I'm gonna perk up and I'm gonna put this content out because I know it's gonna pay me X amount of money and give me X amount of followers. This is the real life how I feel about this, and it's gonna be interesting to see if it changes or if it stays the same or what it might grow into. But I think you're not getting, from my perspective, I'm not getting someone that says, the full birth of what this means to be online, doing a podcast, and the person behind, like, why are you doing this? What is this? What is this? So I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy to be like, this is how I really feel about this situation right now, and we'll see if that changes. So tune in next week at the same time.
Yeah, I talked to Sean about it a little bit. Shout out to Sean and Joey.
Yeah, shout out.
Sharing his podcast. And Sean is always telling me, like, man, just shut up and do it, basically. And he was like, once you do it, then it'll make sense. So now that we've gotten through this whole thing, right, about if we do or if we don't want to have a podcast, right, and why we don't, but what do you think this show, what type of value do you think this show will bring or add to the podcasting space?
That's a good question. My initial question, I don't know. I don't know. I think our background, based on where we come from, being middle class, going to private school, or not private schools, but public schools.
They were private school.
This is my fake influencer background I'm building.
Together, dog. Like, what are you talking
about? Just being middle class, right? 2-parent household, two parents at work, going to public school, and making it out of a road that we were supposed to travel and we didn't, right? So it's a lot to unpack there, but so I think the benefit is going to be seeing someone of our background speaking on finance, real estate, on more than just a surface level. From someone seeing this or hearing this, they're hearing 2 young Black guys in the finance world, and I think that's just unique in itself, right? In addition, 2 young Black men with families, right, and responsibilities it's a different layer. So I hope that it would bring a different voice to people who grew up just like us, to where you can do something else, right? You don't have to just play ball or rap, and there's nothing wrong with those things, but I want some other professions at the forefront. When you're a kid is in middle school that says, what are you going to do when you grow up? I want to get into investment real estate or whatever that is, right? Or finance on some type of level. So I hope that it makes some space for young Black kids in particular, and let them see something else that they can achieve, because I don't think I'm special in any way. My background wasn't special, but I know for sure, based on where I come from, I was supposed to be in some type of logistics, right? Which is being in a warehouse or driving a truck, and there's nothing wrong with those professions. You know, my dad drove a truck for 30 years that fed us, right? And housed us, and we lived a great life. But the stats say, based on the schooling I had in private school, public school. I want to be in private school so bad. In public school, based on people who graduated where I come from, those are like the industries you go into, right? There wasn't many people attain a secondary degree, let alone a master's or doctorate. So, so for people with that type of education level, they went into certain industries, and that was the only thing you did. So for us to kind of break out of that and become entrepreneurs and business owners, it's different. It's different, and it hasn't been easy whatsoever. But I think it's just a different voice that we can just throw in the pile. Like, hey, and again, it's not special that I took the entrepreneur route or the business route. I don't think it's one is better than the other, but I think it's just different based on where we came from and what was set up for us, Yeah, so, I mean, that's a long-winded answer, but what do you think?
I mean,
what do you think? What do you? Let me rephrase, because we cutting this up. That can be. Let me get my question together. So, what do you think? So now that we're doing a podcast, what do you think this podcast can bring to the podcast space?
I mean, a lot of what you just mentioned, obviously, but also I think it just brings another layer of authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so many experts. Like, I mean, I'm sure even in your life, when you're listening to other podcasts and they get on certain subjects, and there's no one there to like expound on those topics, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's left up to guesswork, right? And then,
Right.
and immediately that gap gets filled by a person who's not qualified,
Mm-hmm.
because they'll bring that person on, and then that person will come on and say, "Oh, it's this, that," and then 6 months later they got to say, "Oh no, we didn't do our background checks, or we didn't do a full background check. We thought he was who we said he was." But like, so I think it just brings a layer of authenticity from people who actively work day to day, um, in those industries. And I also want to say it doesn't. I want to make sure we keep this like we're able to retain like our ability to speak and think freely here. I don't want it. I don't want it to become like only about finance or real estate or whatever. I'd rather it just be that's our background, so these are our perspectives, and we should
Right.
still be able to have normal conversations across any topic, but just from
Mm-hmm.
the perspective of someone who comes from our background.
Right. Right.
I think a lot of us are I think a lot of urban podcasts can be like pigeonholed a little bit into
Mm-hmm.
talking about the things that I mean, because it makes sense. It's a business, but only talking about the things that like will get them paid.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a podcast about finance or entrepreneurship, it's hard to just keep creating that content on entrepreneurship and having guests. And ultimately, you're going to run across people who are scammers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have to keep up with the demand. I just don't want to be like I don't want a job. If I wanted a
Yeah.
job,
Mm-hmm.
like so I just want to make sure we retain the right to think and speak freely and cover any topic we choose, and just bring a layer of authenticity to it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
People, and I'm glad you brought up the whole job thing, because I'm not a job shamer.
Yeah. Of course.
Like I think just in the spirit of the title of this podcast, I think many people would appreciate their job more if they just didn't have to rely on the income. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you are 19, 20 years old and you're like, oh, I hate my job, I'm sure you do. You might work somewhere where you're not planning on being there for 30 or 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you to tell someone who's an electrician or whoever that their job sucks and they suck as a person if
Yeah.
they're not doing what you do,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's not the narrative that I'm I'm willing to attach to um, at all,
Yeah.
because that same trade industries, fed us, and raised us. So it's no way that I'm, now that I found the light of entrepreneurship or building your own business, which is not a new thing, right? People have been building small business for decades, for hundreds of years. So I don't liken myself to someone special. Um, just different, just just took a different path.
Mhm.
And
And I also, it's not like it's easier. Like I think,
no, it's
like,
not. It's a lot of glorification about being a business owner, and get to wake up when you want and go to work and don't have to be beholden to anyone. It's like, no, if anything, you know you have a bunch of mini bosses that are your clients. you know you don't have one supervisor that's going to get on your top. You got hundreds or whatever your clientele base is.
yep.
So um
And you get,
you did get to fire your quote unquote bosses or clients that you don't want to deal with. So that's a benefit. But yeah, it's not. I don't think it's better. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of down times too. You can have a lot of good years, and then you have one bad year. A few bad years.
I'm glad you said
So,
that. Where we're at now, just with the economy, period. Where we're at now, where everything is booming. So it's easy. It's easy right now for anybody to look like they did something. But you could tell,
yeah.
at least for me, it's easy to look out and tell like who lacks the discipline to
Mhm.
to maintain it.
Right.
So it's like you're benefiting on circumstance. It's
Mhm.
it's not from expertise.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So I think I'm glad you said that, because hold on, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. I'm glad you said that though, because like I said, it's easy just to look out and tell who lacks who didn't take the time to develop the discipline over years and years and years. They're battle tested. They
Mhm.
understand. So it doesn't matter how much money you have. That's also a thing, right? Like you can make $5-10 million in a given span of time.
Mhm.
If you can go 2 years without doing anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 years. And
Yeah.
then, okay, well, now what?
Right. Right. You have to be able to like really know what your overhead is, keep it low. Um, don't ball out on the S550, 600, or whatever new car, or but they probably driving Teslas now.
I mean, that's tough.
Or
I'm not even gonna lie, that's tough. Like I
you have a good 2-3 years, and all of a sudden a recession come, and you got $1,000 payment. So that you flipping credit cards to pay all your bills and shit. So
I mean,
uh,
I think also too, I think also people like don't fully understand is that once you get to that point, especially when you're someone who doesn't make your money like every 2 weeks.
mhm.
When you're a business owner, like of course for us we work on commission, being in real estate and whatnot. But if you're a business owner, depending on how your business is set up, you could be taking quarterly draws, like you only get paid once a quarter, or
Mhm.
whatever, right? But at that point, your money is your money has to work for you. So say you make a poor decision with the money,
Mhm.
it can only be poor. It might not be poor in at at the point of origin. But it might be poor down the line.
Yeah, 6 months later, you're like, dang, maybe I shouldn't have made that investment into my business. Now things slow down. So yes, it's a lot
That's why,
it's a lot to calculate, and it's hard to do because you don't know the future.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to keep that. It's harder to maintain it than it is to make it.
Yeah, and you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, I was coming off one of my best years, momentum wise, in the business before the pandemic hit. I'm like, oh, 2020 is about to be okay. It's on. All right, now I'm kind of getting into a flow, a rhythm, and then that hit. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. You know, I know what this looked like. You know, I was there in 2008, 2009. Time to tighten up. Where everybody else is just gonna act like everything was good still.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to keep up appearances. And I remember posting things on Facebook like, okay, this is what y'all need to start doing. Cancel all them bills you're not using.
Mm-hmm.
Go through your overhead at home and start deleting and canceling some of these things and save your money. You know, now we're a year into the pandemic, over a year. That was like maybe March or April. I was putting that out there.
No,
Yeah,
I think it was just because I got the notification, like on the Facebook memories.
yeah,
I think that happened like 2 days ago. So it was literally like a year.
yeah.
Like a year.
A year. And I know people's like, okay, he's just gonna just fold up and take his ball home, huh?
Yes.
I'm like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
'Cause I'm
You know,
smart.
I know what it looked like. You know,
With an H, I'm smart.
yeah, yeah, hella smart.
Smart.
So, um, and then what happened after that? People trying to keep up appearances. Too much of that. It's not a pandemic. It's a bandemic.
Yeah.
You know, the narrative was, no, we not poor. We actually making more money. Yeah, okay.
A lot. Like it's you know what I'm saying. There are people who have significantly like increased their income during this time. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
that definitely happens. It's a matter of again, it's just developing the discipline to go beyond that. Because
Right.
you know the need for people. Like people needed something. They were looking for whatever you had at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and you happen to be the person there in that moment to capitalize on it. Like that's
Yep.
smart, right?
Yeah.
But what happens is again, does that continue? Because what really made me think people aren't like people aren't doing as well, or things are looking at things are or things aren't as good as people are making them look is just how thirsty they are. I'm not using the word thirsty just because, but how thirsty they are for opportunities.
Right.
Because that's
Wait,
that what is that?
what type of opportunities?
Just anything to make money.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They'll do anything.
The next thing is coming by. I'm gonna jump on that.
Yeah.
It was like, you were fine all this time. Why are we jumping on new things? Why are you selling, wine now? Why these Girl Scout cookies got to go out? Why? you know why?
Usually, so in 2008, there was a study put out about like the amount of fraudulent activity like leading up to the crash, and
Mm,
it was at an all time high, right?
yeah.
If you look now, it's higher, right? The
Yeah.
amount of fraudulent activity is higher. So there are more people just doing things knowing that they borderline like fraud
Yeah.
for the sake of doing them. And so I feel like when those types of things happen, it's because you don't have whatever you're out here getting doesn't exist already.
Yeah. For sure.
When I started, it's picked up recently, like way like it's gotten pretty crazy over the past couple months. But when you see like how thirsty people are for every opportunity that presents itself, that lets
Hmm.
you know like everything's not okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You
I
got time
mean,
to here in this MLM and this MLM, and then you sell milkshakes, like you said, and then you do the like. No, everything is not okay. You're, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Like, what do? You pull out 12 business cards.
yeah, it's not okay. So going back to the original question of what we plan to bring, to the whole space is, like I said, is just a level of authenticity. So, we're gonna be completely transparent about our experience doing this, and just give our perspectives on the world. They might not be popular, people might hate it, but again, I don't care to be famous or liked. I don't want to be friends with none of these dudes who are social media famous.
You want to be a guru?
Nah, no. I don't want to be, at some type of social media conference and I'm smiling in the little circle on the flyer.
You don't want to be on the flyer? Dang.
But nah, man.
You don't want to be on the masterpiece flyer?
Nah, I'd rather just be, hanging out with my folks. But so we'll see, man. We'll see what it evolves into. I think it's gonna take a minute for us to get in a rhythm, but ultimately, I think we'll be okay. And then, of course, down the line, we'll have guests on, and I think we'll be able to bring something of value.
Yeah.
We just got.
I think so. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think now that it got that out, I think flushed a lot of like why I don't want to do this out. I think that's important to flush that out and move on.
Do you think? Because I personally haven't heard any. I've never heard a podcast talk about how they didn't want to do a podcast. Do you think that it's beneficial to, to show that or to lay that out for people?
I think so. Well, I think it's beneficial for us. I feel like if we're doing this for us, I want to start there first. So I feel better having said it, the things that I said, and I think that's part of being authentic. It's like, okay, let me get this out first, and then however it's received, and we kind of go from there. Because I don't think we could have moved forward without touching on why we had these what do I want to say, I don't know why we had these hangups, and about even doing this at all. So I mean, I feel better. I mean, you feel better after having said it, or?
I mean, kind of. I was kind of thinking about it. I was thinking about it throughout the day, like, and like I don't know. But, once you come in and press record, it's kind of like, all right, well, it's already happening anyway.
Put a confidence for your own podcast. Show up next week, folks. Same time. We'll be talking about maybe how we still didn't want to do this, but it's episode 2. It's like, man, you get 5 episodes of this out.
Episode 2 of how we don't want to have a podcast.
I think as we go, we move forward, we'll get past that, as we keep fleshing it out, because I think it might even be part of therapy, I don't want to say it's in addition to, if you really need real therapy, this is in addition to.
Yeah.
I don't want to just say this is going to be your therapy, because it's not. I'm not a licensed doctor whatsoever. So
I don't want to get sued.
So yeah, I think it's part of just talking it out. Talking it out, getting your own thoughts out of your head, because I'm definitely a in my head type person. So so it's good to just get it out.
All right.
And it's gonna be funny too, because if if our women do tune into this podcast. I'm like, okay, you guys can really talk, huh? Oh, so they really do talk. You really can string some words together and make points.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we pretty much covered what we need to cover tonight. We just wanted to give everyone like a brief, overview of how we feel about doing this. I know it might not be exciting. We might not have given everyone a reason to listen,
I'm
uh,
excited. I'm excited.
but hopefully you guys continue to tune in, and we just hope to continue to add value to to the space. And next week, we'll be right back here, same time, same network.
Yeah. So yeah, to go over, it'll be every Monday, right? That correlate Rich by Monday,
Monday, yeah.
and most likely it'll post sometime in the morning. All right.
Yeah, Monday morning. So we'll record over the weekend, and it'll be up Monday morning. So by the time Monday comes, we should have just a bunch of perspective
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
everyone, and make that morning commute either going to work or the afternoon commute coming home
Mm-hmm.
a lot easier for everyone.
Right.
So
All right. I'm excited. I'm gonna show up next week. I'm gonna do this again.
we got to. We just told them like we got to. So
Yep, I'll be here again.
yep. So yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Yeah.
Good job.
All right.